Forest Tools, Script AI Editor, Traffic Manager, River Editor, Particle Editor, Mesh Road Editor, Biome Tool, Building Architect, Terrain Tools, Decal Road Editor, Road Architect, Object Select, Road Spline, Decal Spline, Assembly Spline, Master Spline, Mesh Spline, and Drive Path Editor. A lot to pack into one video, but I think we can do it. So you'll notice that as soon as we went into the World Editor, the Object Select was the default selected tool. So this will always be the case. And if you're in another tool, let's say the Mesh Editor, and you press Escape, it's going to go back to the Object Select view. If you close it down, yeah. So lower the camera speed here. Yeah, see, I'm doing it right now, spawning up that vehicle. Okay. All right, where were we? So let's go home and let's turn physics off. We're going to pause the game with the J. All right. So the first one is create object. There's going to be 4 categories here: environment, level, BeamNG, and other classes. So the environment, typically, you already have a lot of these already built. We already have a terrain block. We already have a ground plane. We already have ground cover. There already is water as well, or an ocean water block. And there's a few sounds. We already have a scatter sky. So you may not necessarily need to create all that. The default template has some pretty nice stuff. If we look at the window, the scene tree, we can actually see a lot of those. So if I look at the clouds, there's 2 clouds already here, 2 different cloud layers. There's also a sun sky, technically a scatter sky. So we don't necessarily need to create that. We can create another one, but it's not necessary. Water block, however, if you're making a river, which I made one over here, a little pond, you would use a water block. So you could add a water block. If you click it and then click on the map, it will add a big water block. Now it's a big rectangle. And then when you uncheck create object, it goes back to object select. And then we can modify that. We can either scale it, or we can move it, bring it down a little bit. I already have water there, so I'm not sure what I'm doing. But let's say I built a pond over here. When you play at a map, this one's got quite a lot of waves, or resume it. So to edit all that, you can go to Inspector and inspect the water block. So this allows you to change stuff like the viscosity of the liquid, add like a 5 there, density, you can change the ripple magnitude. Let's try that. Let's do like 0.1. Oh yeah, that's much better. And let's see here. Wave magnitude. So now I've gotten rid of basically all the waves. Nice smooth surface. Or I can do like 50. Maybe not 50. Let's try 5. Nah, that's still too much. You can see how these are pretty sensitive. Let's try 1 again. Oh yeah, that's cool. It's like some real rapids. And then we can do reflectivity. There's a bunch of stuff we could do. I'm getting sidetracked, but that's how you would create a water block. We close down the scene. Skybox, it's a kind of an older style, typically in like, I wouldn't say older games, but some games use skyboxes. We actually don't use it in this. We're using what's called the scatter sky and the time of day, which you can see here, time of day. And so the time of day determines, we already talked about this before, but it determines where the sun is in the sky, right? And then the scatter sky, if I were to look at that, this determines how many clouds there are. I can colorize it. I can change the fog color. Do something like green. That doesn't do much. Let's see. Cast shadows, brightness. Oh yeah, there we go. Nice little sun scale. Bit of red sky. Blue sky. Ooh, that's cool. Very trippy. Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of options there. I feel like you could do like an alien level or something. I don't know. I'm gonna do that. All right. Oh, that's right. I'm in plus. I can't delete it. If you're in a module, let's call these things modules, you can't delete stuff in the scene tree until you return to object select, FYI. All right, let's go back to add. So now we could also add in point light. Show an example of this. You want to just do a street light. Actually, I've got a couple street lights over here. So you could do a point light. And also a spotlight. And then we can go to edit and figure out the actual location. It's pretty good. It's a little bit tricky to line these up. All right, now at nighttime, got ourselves a nice little light. It's pretty cool. I could increase that. I could lower the point light down a little bit. Everything is done through the inspector. Could do brightness. Let's do like 50. Ooh, that's bright. Kind of looks good though. So if I did that, that might be too bright, but you get the idea. $20. That's kind of great. That's some noir lighting right there. All right, I'm clearly getting distracted, so let me get back to it. All right, so you can create objects from this menu as you need. We already have quite a few, like I said, but if you wanted to add a water plane, you could do that. There's a water plane, bingo. It's beneath my map. My map's raised up a little bit. Yeah, sweet. Next category is level. So this is going to be, delete some of these. This is going to be your way for creating groups if you wanted to. New group, sim group. You can also do this in the editor itself, or in the scene tree. If you wanted to say new group. So now my player is in there, right? You can also add a camera, and it'll prompt you to drop that camera down. So I could add a camera at the school. Bingo. Level info. We already have a level info, which is in my infos folder, which has information like gravity, clip threshold, temperature, fog color, all that good stuff. This one I think you can change. Yeah, you can change the fog color, which is kind of cool. I went with like a bluish color. So we already have that. We don't need to add that. Time of day, we have that as well. It's under, I believe it's under light or time. Yeah, TOD. There's a rule where you can't name it the same thing as the class, so that's like the way you get around that. Okay. Zones. All right, so zones are areas that you can set up triggers, and you can also This happens sometimes. There we go. You can set up, like, if this is a school zone, be like, this is where my school zone is going to be. Bam. And it makes basically a box that I believe you can then edit. Yep. To make much bigger. So anything that enters the zone, if you're doing like a delivery mission, you could be like, package delivered once you enter in this zone. Yeah. From what I understand too, you can set zone ambiances, like sounds that happen in this zone. So like the sound of a school, I don't know. You could also, I've heard that you can set speed limits as well. I haven't tested that out yet, but that's what the documentation says. You could say all the roads in this zone have a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. So that's zones. And then I haven't used zone portals, but I haven't tested this, but my assumption is that if you build a portal here and maybe another portal somewhere else, it will teleport you. That'd be kind of cool if that was true. I don't know if that's true, but that makes sense to me. Player spawn sphere. We already had one of those at our suburb, but you can add more like this. I have one right here. And that way it creates multiple spawn points for the player to spawn in. And they can select it from the map as well when it comes to quick travel points. Got two different locations here. Yep. Okay. Observer spawn sphere, haven't messed around with that yet. Nor have I touched occlusion volume or static mesh. I have done static meshes. Okay. Static meshes are the same thing as assets. So if you want to place a building, you can select it from this if you wanted to. I think a better way to do it is the asset browser, but they also have an option here. I feel like this was the original version of the adding, like it was like the first version, and then they created the asset browser after that was much better, that you could drag and drop. And yeah, sometimes I feel like that's the case with BeamNG devs, is they make new stuff and it's cool, but they don't actually like depreciate the old method. So there's just more than one way to do it, and some methods are better than others. All right, moving right along to mission start position editor. This one you have to have a position, you have to have a mission to be able to edit it, but essentially it's a way of defining your start and ends and your flags in the mission. That one's easy. Decal editor, one of my favorites. So decals are a way to put, let's call them stamps, on the terrain and on some objects. So in your decal editor, you can build templates like Grime. A bunch of these are already developer ones. I made some myself, but road damage, fallen leaves, dirty rocks, right? And then you can place those decals. So I have a decal here for a sewer grate, and I also have a manhole cover. I'm using a what's called a I can't remember, instance picture. I can't remember the name of it. It's essentially a grid, a 4x4 grid that you can then, an array. I think it might be an array, but at any rate, Dover road markings. You can show the instances of where all the objects are throughout the map. So they're all the different places I've placed decals. Placed a couple on the roads out here, right? Pretty awesome. So that's a really good way of getting art assets onto your map. So example, we have a slow road marking. So I created one for slow and an arrow as well. There are There's a developer-made road marking. It looks like this. Just show a couple of them and click randomly. But you can kind of see that the fidelity is not very good. It works, it does the job. But I kind of increased my fidelity a little bit and I messed around with the opacity and pretty happy with that result. Road damage is quite useful. Potholes, patches, those are great. You can see some of the road damage I've done up here. Looks great. So that is the decal editor. I'll cover that in another video, dive deep into it. Vehicle livery creator, I have not used this. It is essentially how to modify the vehicle liveries. I believe that they created this option and then they also made the garage, which then you can, create your own paints and decals in here, dynamic decals. So it's kind of interesting that the the World Editor has their own version, essentially. Heading back to Dover. All right, next we have the camera path editor. So this is where you see all those crazy clips of people online making awesome machinimas and videos. Pretty easy to use, to be honest. I'm gonna dock it over here. So new, marker, move forward, marker, move forward, marker, and then add one more. And what that does is it creates a camera path, as you can clearly see, and you can then play through to that camera path. And it's nice and smooth. Look at that. It's beautiful. So that's how you get those insanely good cinematics, as simple as that. There's a couple other features here that make it exactly what you're looking for. FOV change, timing, position smoothing. It's great. Let's close that down. All right, next we have the forest tool. I've already touched on this in the first video I made on this series, but you have meshes and you have brushes. So your meshes are your individual trees, your individual objects. That's a part of the building architect. Garbage sack, right? Doesn't have to be a tree. It can be a little box, but it could even be a building. Bam. But all the meshes are what make up the brush. So you can define a brush as, I want to paint in this area large bushes. And just like that, you got a nice little forest. These are customizable. Highly recommend checking them out. So I did some that are medium brushes. You can change your size. I want to cover this massive area, right? You can change your density. This is going to be very big, so let's go small. Bam. Super dense. Do like 3, so it barely spits out any. And you can also do rocks. Mossy rocks. I don't have any Dover rocks. Stumps. Get a chopped down forest, deforested area. There's a lot of good options here. Again, these are all developer made. You can make your own. All you got to do is have a mesh. You can add a new mesh, specify it, and you're good to go. Sweet. So your forest items are what I used to create these forests. They're probably a little too dense, but it's nice. Gave them some underbrush. All right, next we have Script AI Editor. I have not used this. And it's all the way off screen. Oh, this is a good note. Okay, if you click something and nothing happens, check your other monitors. It's possible they're on a different window. So I believe this is where you can script certain events for cars, make them crash. Traffic Manager, I have used this. So your Traffic Manager is your way of creating dynamic stop signs, traffic lights, and vehicles and props. So you can open that up. Is it on a different menu? I don't see it. This has been buggy lately. This is a newer feature, and I'm wondering if this is currently having issues until the next release. I don't see it in other ones. River Editor. Okay. If you have a, just draw it. All right, so everybody knows, this is good enough time to talk about this. Everybody knows that BeamNG stands for Beam Next Generation. So the beam and the nodes are what make up all the cars, all the vehicles. Same thing's true with the roads and the rivers. So you have a node, and then you have a beam, and then you have a node, and you have a beam, you have a node, and you can very quickly draw a river. Obviously, you want this to go into the ground, but you can create a river pretty easily. Same thing is true with the roads. Yes, default width, default depth are the options available. All right, next we have particle editor. It's going to spawn a sample particle in front of you, and you can tweak all of this stuff: ejection, offset, variance, velocity, particles, blender, emitter. I haven't really messed around too much with particles. That's kind of like the final pass on your level. If you have like a smokestack or something, you could add a particle emitter to it. But so I haven't really gotten into that. But that's how you edit particles. Okay, we are into the good stuff now. Thank you for hanging with me if you have. If you made it this far. Mesh Road Editor. This is one of the most critical ones. So Mesh Road Editor is, as the name suggests, a way of making roads. I'm gonna reset the default for it real quick because I was playing around with it earlier. Editor, Mesh Road Editor. I'm gonna change this to be 5, and then we're gonna do 2. Okay, so Mesh Road Editor, just like the River Editor, node, node, and then if you press Alt, you can continue drawing. I'm holding the Alt button down right now, and you can make a nice road, right? I'm sure all of you have seen this. If you press Control R, it resets. If you press Control F7, it rebuilds the collision. And then if you press Control W or Alt W, you can spawn a vehicle on top of this. So now this is a road that I can drive on. Check it out. Not too shabby. Oh, turn around. This is the infamous no material. By default, if you haven't selected anything, it will show up. I need to get one of those coffee cups. This means you need to assign it a material via the material editor. Okay. All right. So the mesh road, God, there we go, is quite useful for making physical roads that you could drive on, physics-based. Materials, I'll dive into mesh roads later, but materials, you can select different materials, right? Track editor. I get a pretty good looking mesh road, right? Mesh roads can be used to create sidewalks. That's what I use for my sidewalks. You can choose to make them decal roads, just like the decal editor, but I wanted something that would be physically there that you could bump into. All right. Biome tool. Right now, this is bugged. It's unfortunate because it's a great tool. I was able to use it to actually create all these trees because you can set basically a fence around an area. I'm sure you've seen those trailers for it, but it's not working right now. Building architect works. It's not great, in my opinion. I don't know. Control click new building. You can then modify the building. If you grab the scope, you can grab the wall. Drag that wall out. There's a way to do this, I forget. Yeah, there we go. So you can make some cool stuff with it. It's very European centric because if you look at the windows, they're quite stony. The doors, it's like an Italy door. But I'm sure they'll make more in the future. In concept, it's really cool. I just think it's easier to actually make buildings in Blender. And there's limited assets too. So that is the building editor, building architect, excuse me. It also does that. Is it a forest item? Oh, that's funny if it is. Yeah, it spaces out all my stuff too. Oh, it is. That's interesting. So the building itself is normal, and then the windows are forest items. I did not know that. Okay, where were we? Yes, okay. So I would say this is my most used feature. This is the terrain tool. Terrain tools. All right, you've got import terrain, export terrain, circle brush, square brush, grab terrain, raise up, lower, smooth, really smooth, smooth slope, paint noise, flatten, set height, clear, restore, average height, align with mesh down, subtract mesh, terraform, and terrain painter. So I probably have a separate video just on this alone, but if I wanted to raise the height, I could do that. I've got high pressure here, so I could maybe just raise it a little bit. And the ground does the calculations underneath it for decals. You can see how it loads it, and then it loads it. Yeah. I gotta make sure I don't save this. But quite convenient and easy to use to make slopes. I can lower it. I can smooth it out. Really smooth. Let's bring the pressure up. Nice. Smooth slope. I tend to get mixed results with smooth slope. Sometimes it works great, other times not so much. Show an example. If I build a tower, yeah, even that, it just sucks it to the bottom. Sometimes it's finicky. Not sure what causes that. And then smooth slope. Oh, that actually worked great. Sometimes it does not. Sometimes it does. It does that thing where it goes to the bottom. Paint noise is cool. If you were to max this out, you get a little bit of deformation. I wonder if I'm hitting like the top of the ceiling or something. I bet you that's it. I bet you if I lower it down. So now if I paint noise, what happens? Yeah, that's cool. I bet you that's it. I bet you I'm hitting the top and then it's folding in on itself. It's very possible. This comes into play with your max height when you're importing your height map. Coolness. Yeah, it's hitting some sort of threshold and freaking out. Flatten. Average height, and it flattens it out. Kind of useful. You would need to follow it up with a smooth slope or possibly the really smooth option. But if you want to get like a nice flat garage space or something like that to build on, that's how you do it. Set height. So this is coming from this number right here. It's kind of cut off a little bit, but you have your height number. So you can modify that. You can also height pick it. So if I wanted to go back down to that, I could pick it and then I could paint. Clear terrain is when you want to make a hole in the terrain. So this would happen if you had like a tunnel. You don't want any terrain to get in the way. Restore terrain is the exact opposite. There you go. And then average height is the old smooth. Sometimes good. You can kind of like do this. I'll show you the comparison. So that like averages it out and puts it in the middle. If I do the really smooth, which is the new smooth, it does this instead. It's kind of more of a slope. See that? This is more like gradual, and this is more like it makes a little step. Both good for their own purposes. Rad. Okay. Align with mesh. If you have a mesh above it, I'm going to move this house just to show you. And you're painting underneath something. Doesn't seem to be working with this one. It might just be for, I might have to either recalc the physics. Yeah, let me try the other one. Align the mesh down. Yeah, it's nothing underneath it. So, and then I haven't ever used Terraform. I know there's a way to kind of set a beam in a node and terraform the area. I don't know how it triggers though. It's like, anyhow. All right, and the last one is the terrain painter. This is where I'm going to dedicate some time to in a future video. But terrain painter is how you paint the terrain. So terrain has, we already talked about it. It's this big old block that we are driving on. It has a base map. And when you create a terrain material, like these ones that I've made, you assign that base map a texture, and that basically is the overall color of the entire map. So you can kind of see I have like a top-down view of the map that I'm currently in. And then you have macro textures, and then you have detail. Think of it as like large, medium, and small. And I will go into a lot of detail because I spend a lot of time in Material Editor. But this is how you can paint your map. So if you wanted to make a gravel road, you could say, let's make a gravel road that goes out this way. Okay. If you wanted to make concrete, all the concrete here. It's actually asphalt. Just kidding. All the asphalt here. Could continue that this way. So it's essentially saying this portion of the map I want covered with concrete, and it doesn't have any sprites on it. Grass does have sprites, right? I've got a couple different types of grass. I've got grass 1, grass 2, grass 3, the one I use for my suburbs. Grass 4, it's got some flowers in it, some stuff. And these are all editable and customizable. I also have one called grass flat, which is no sprites. I use that for sidewalks. Cat. So why doesn't this road look like this road? Well, because we need decal roads. So once you've decided that I'm going to paint the terrain, then you need to draw a decal road on top of it. There's two different types of decal roads. There's AI roads and non-AI roads. The AI roads, I have this box to allow me to select them. They have drivability on 1, and that's what determines the AI can drive on this road. You can see it kind of curves around there. If I want to decorate the sides of my roads, I can use, let me find one real quick. I can use a decal road to color in the edges, essentially, make it look really natural. So that's what these are. These are not AI roads. So the drivability is -1. There's no lanes. There's no junctions. It's just a decoration. The material is road edge asphalt, right? So we can modify that with a different material if we want. This one is a decal road, and the material is repair. So it looks like I'm, it's been some repairs to this section of road. It's pretty cool. Even the stripes on these roads are decal roads. So these are the building blocks to make your roads. There's different tools, which we'll touch on in a second, that can combine, basically, put all these together for you. And I do recommend using those. But if you ever want to manipulate like a small piece of it, you can do so. So like if you wanted to say, I want this particular piece to only go to here, right? You can do that. Okay. Decal roads are your bread and butter. They work the same way as mesh roads, where you can place them with Alt and click, and then they appear. So in this case over here, let's go ahead and create a decal road with some nodes. And I'm going to make that edge. It's pretty good. You can click on one decal road, press Control C, and you can paste the style to a different one. And then if you see the texture is kind of bunched up, you can adjust that. Texture length, let's try 20. It's pretty good. Let's try 30. Even better, let's try 40. That looks good. Now we've got a nice edge of the asphalt going into dirt, going into grass. Look. Freaking awesome. Copy it, paste it over here. Bingo. Okay. Notice that there's some grass that is growing on the asphalt. If you like that look, that's fine. If you want to change it, you could do grass flat or something. Clean up those edges. Actually, I'm going to do asphalt. When you have a decal road, it covers a section of your road of the terrain painter. See how that's covering it up? Without it, it would look like this. So it's all in the effort to hide the edges in pixelated paint. Yeah, nice. I'm gonna go like that. That's pretty sweet. So that, in a nutshell, is the decal road and the terrain tools. It's two of the most used features. All right, on to Road Architect. I'm only going to spend a little bit of time on this because it's not really a finished product. I built a couple of these roads with Road Architect, but it didn't really come out how I wanted. They have a lot of bugs. In a nutshell, the idea is that you get a spline road with a template that you can design, and you can tweak the lanes, the terraforming. You can edit the, see, I can't even scroll all the way down with this thing. There we go. You can change the road condition, which I think is really cool. So if it's like immaculate, you can say that. And then when you're ready for it to be like committed, you say render mode, and it renders it, right? You still need to paint underneath it with the terrain painter. Like so. But not bad. You know, it's a way of getting a quick road. The problem that I have with it, and this is just a personal gripe, is they offer the option to include, you can do different layers. Where is it? It's not the best interface for one, but is it under layers? Yeah, I think it is. So you can do different templates. It's been a minute since I did this new profile. Yeah, here we go. So you could say, I want a highway with road barriers. Oh my God. And a lot of lights. That's the template. That's crazy. And these look great, but after you save them, if they're procedural objects, they won't work. It's kind of a bummer. Some of these look like they're just regular static objects, which is good. But let me see. Specifically, the sidewalks I've had problems with. You can't really preview it. It does this weird like hover in the air window where it, you know, it shows it to you, but tracks, lamps only, barrier, rural, urban. Yeah, okay, so this one has sidewalks. So if I do rural, no, that's not it. Let's try urban. Yeah. All right, looks great. Looks freaking fantastic. But if I were to save it and come back, these right here, these are procedural objects. Procedural mesh. They don't reload. That's one of the downsides. So until the devs have that figured out, I wouldn't recommend using Road Architect. Very cool concept. Still needs some work. Okay. You can also do junctions. They have some preset junctions, which is kind of nice. You could do like a two-way. You could do a four-way one. Looks like that. Has its own lights. Definitely cool if it worked, you know what I mean? Yeah, that's pretty dope. It's got its own crossing guard. You're trading, you're sacrificing, you know, the detail, which you can edit after the fact, because all it's doing is creating these in, you know, presets. Anyhow, all right. So that is the Road Architect, and now we're on to the good stuff. This is on the most recent release. This is, and I want to make sure I don't, let me reload my map because I don't want to save on accident. Okay, spline tools. These are amazing. I'm going to go over here just to show you. Yeah. Spline tools are freaking great. Okay. Spline tools are basically a simpler version of Road Architect that actually works. So you have Road Spline, Decal Spline, Assembly, Master, and Mesh. I feel like Master should be in the beginning because Master is it's great. Master is recommended. Master is basically a way of collecting all of the different spline types into one, and you can use that. Yeah, let me just show you. So the master spline, you can then have this goes to this, and then from there you can add any of the different types of splines beneath it. So if you wanted to have a road spline, you could link that. Bingo, a freaking road spline. Look how awesome that is. If you wanted to add a mesh spline, you could do that. I need to add a texture to it, but that creates a barrier. If you wanted to add a assembly spline, you could do that. I'm going to get rid of the mesh spline. Now you got a fence in the middle of the road. It's awesome. It's super cool. And you can laterally position that fence too. Just like that. New assembly spline. We got ourselves a nice little country road in like 2 seconds. How amazing is that? Freaking super cool. And the best part about splines is you can move them. And you can make them curve. And they work just like a decal road editor, but obviously with all of those elements tied to it in perfect synchronization. It's great. So just like that, I've literally made this awesome winding country road with fences and a dotted line. I do need to clean it up a little bit, but it's not bad. It is not bad. I'm going to, I like to use this smooth and just run that over the length of it. So there's no potholes or bumps. I'm going to test drive this. This is so fun. All right. So that is your master spline with a road and 2 assembly splines mixed in. I might just reload the collision, rebuild the collision. So that way the fences should have collision. Yeah, they do. Yes, sir. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, that's a tight corner. Hello. Okay, the collision is a little tricky on these fences. Looks like I can kind of phase through them. But definitely a big time saver. Now I get why Terry gets distracted in his videos so much. He just has fun playing the game. Smash. Okay. So in a nutshell, I've already shown off all the different splines in one because the master spline uses all of them. I'll show decal spline too. So now that I have decal spline, I can apply a decal to it. And the cool thing about it is if you need more control, right? If I wanted to modify the road spline to be, I don't know, different edges, I can go into that. Let me get rid of the decal first. I could go to the link spline and start modifying it. So if I want to get rid of the road edges, here we go, right? If I wanted to add layers, I could do that. Let me do this, yeah, center line first. And then from there, I can literally add, oh, where is it? Where is it? The window's not showing up for me. Well, I'll have to do that later, but I can add, oh, it's right there. I didn't even see it. Edge. Same thing I did earlier. Let's do grass. Check this out. Doesn't look good, but now if I go this way and I change the texture length and I change the width, get a little closer so I can see what I'm doing. This is texture length. We're going to go right about there. I'm going to bring this forward just a touch because I think that's why it's not spawning correctly. Yeah, there we go. It's not bad. Bring it in a little bit. It's pretty sweet. Pretty sweet. So I've got everything I need for a really good looking road. Do the same thing on the other side. Duplicate it. Flip it. Change the position. Did I flip it? I need to toggle. It's not quite laterally flipping for some reason, but either way. And then what's cool is you can actually have presets on this too. So light, heavy wear, right? That looks so good. Fixes, patches, fix 2, cracks, all the stuff that you could do manually. It's all right here. It's freaking good. Cap. I have already used, sorry, I'm just hanging on this for too long. I've already used the assembly spline to make some sweet crash barriers, we call these things. Assembly spline. Yeah, metal crash barrier preset. Super cool. So very straightforward, allows for curvature. And the cool thing is you can actually show the linked assembly splines that are in the master one already. Just dope. So I could be like, bam, bam, bam. Look how cool that is. You know how long that would take us before? the old modders know. We would just be like manually placing these individual things. Oh, that's so cool. Anyhow, all right, that's all I got for this video. Drive path editor I have not used. But that is part 2, a long part 2. Thank you for your patience of all of the secondary features on the editor, on the World Editor. Hope that helps.